Alright, so we've been watching a bag across the airport. Probably the past 3 hours, 2 hours? 2 to 3 hours.
3 hours.
And the security guards walked by it, the airport staff has walked by it, and everyone looks at it, and then they just keep walking.
It's just sitting in the middle of the floor.
And now the bag has moved.
We think it's starting to walk. These like hardcore security guys with like guns just stopped and looked at it.
Yeah. They're like, alright.
It is literally in the middle of the floor. Big update.
The bag has left the vicinity. Someone came and grabbed it.
After 4 hours, they sent 2 guys to come test it, see if it was a bomb, and then they carried it off with like 5 people.
And knocked it into everything possible on the way out.
It's so funny. 4 hours.
Sometimes I feel cold, even paralyzed. My interior
It's like the oldest school
needs
elevator I've
to
ever seen.
sanitize. I've gotta step through or I'll dissipate. I'll record my step through for my basement tapes. Nice to know my kind will be on my side. I don't believe the hype, and you know you're a terrible sight, but you'll be just fine. Just don't believe the hype. Yeah, they might be talking behind your head. Your exterior world can step off instead. It might take some friends and a warmer shirt.
We've got like 12 hours on this train. It's a sleeper, so it should be fun.
Will be on my side. I don't believe the hype, and you know you're a terrible sight, but you'll be just fine. Just don't believe the hype. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. No, I don't know which way I'm going, but I can hear my way around. But I can hear my way around.
coming all the way back to shore just to get this group of people who were so late
We forgot a whole bus.
that we forgot an entire bus. So they continue to be a problem.
I did 1,000,000 stupid things. I said 1,000,000,000 foolish things. I'm not okay. I got a baseball bat beside my bed to fight off what's inside my head, to fight off what's behind my meds. I'm lonely, lost in pain. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. You're not a monster, just a human, and you're made of your mistakes. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. You're not gruesome, just human, and you're made of your mistakes. It's alright. Oh, it's okay. Oh, goddamn, I throw a brick right through the window. My life ignored the signals. I am high and drunk on ego, can't see straight. So I just feel my way around, and I am touching, I am grabbing everything I can't be having. I am broken down in shame. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. You're not a demon, there's a reason you behave in that way. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. And I believe, yes, I believe that you'll see a better day. It's alright. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's alright. I don't wanna know who I am, 'cause heaven only knows what I find. I don't wanna know I'm not capable of coming out alive. I don't wanna see what's inside. I think that I would rather be blind. I don't wanna know I'm not capable. I'm capable. I'm alright. I'm okay. I'm alright. I'm okay.
We're skiing again. You know, you think you go to the Middle East or North Africa, I guess, and you think, I'm not gonna be skiing. Yet here we are. Skiing in Egypt.
Day of the season.
Oh yeah, her first ski day of the season in Egypt. Yeah, let's give it a try. It's pretty decent. The skis are rough, but that's okay. Those people are actually pretty decent here. We went hot air ballooning this morning, and now we're skiing. All right, shall we?
Let's do it.
I'm not gruesome, just human, and I need a few. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. I'm not a demon, there's a reason you behave in that way. It's alright, it's okay, it's alright, it's okay. And I believe, yes, I believe that you'll see a better day. It's alright. It's okay. It's alright. And I believe, yes, I believe that you'll see a better day. It's alright.
Getting back from Cairo to the United States was the single worst travel experience I've ever had. And I feel like that means something because I have had a pretty decent amount of travel. So we wake up at Cairo and we get to the airport at 5:30.
So we went to the front desk, and he told us that our flight had been delayed until like 11:30 in the morning.
Yes, after waiting for over an hour in line.
Yes. And he couldn't join our tickets together, so we were on separate trips, but the same flights, at least for now.
Yeah. Oh, and this delay had been known like before today, and he said, "Oh, you should have gotten an email." And we asked all the other passengers. We did not receive.
Oh yeah, there was no
any-
email, no text message. So then we finally get into the airport. We're like, well, maybe we should look at switching our flight so we can still get in. And we looked into it, but you can't change a flight once you're already in the airport or something. We asked a bunch of people and they said no. So we're like, all right, we'll just wait. We get on the plane a few times, get off the plane a few times, and they keep postponing it because of wind in Munich. And so then we end up leaving at like, what was it, 2?
Yeah.
It was,
Overall, I think it was 6 or 7 hours before we ended up leaving.
yeah. And then when we were on the plane, we were basically just circling around Munich because they wouldn't let us land. Then they finally let us land, and all flights out of Munich are canceled for the night. And it's like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at this time.
Something like that.
And so we go to the line to get a new flight, and it is absurd. So we decide to just leave the airport and figure it out in the morning. But as we're leaving the airport, we're like, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe we should figure this out before we leave. So then we sat on the phone for like 3 hours.
It was an hour and a half with United and about an hour and a half with Lufthansa. Now, these are 4 separate phone calls, one of which they just told us it wasn't going to happen. The other one, we just lost connection after being on the phone for 45 minutes. And then United was like, oh, we have to talk to Lufthansa. And then one of them was a combo with Lufthansa and United.
And basically they just told us that we had to wait in the line at the airport.
So at this point, it is about 10:30.
Yep. We'd already booked 4 hotels and canceled them all.
Yes.
In a frenzy.
It was a fiasco. And then then we have to get in line. We stand in line for 2.5 hours. It is 1 o'clock when we finally they give us a hotel and they give us a voucher for the taxi. Thank God that was a €65 euro taxi, so whatever that is, $75, $80. And so we finally get to bed at like 2. Yeah, we got the airport at 8:30, I think. We're sitting there for our next flight. We check in, everything's going well, and then they're like, "Oh, flight's delayed. The toilet doesn't work." So it gets delayed twice. We end up leaving super late. We miss our connecting flight in the United States. And then we land in Chicago, and we have to get to Minneapolis in order to get to Great Falls, because there's only 4 airports that fly into Great Falls, basically. Minneapolis had the latest flight, which was leaving that night at 5:30.
Yeah, and they stuck us on a Delta flight.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was for a Delta flight. But United had not actually booked us on the United Delta flight. They were like, oh, this is a possible one that you can do. And so when we get off the plane, there are a bunch of people that get a expedited travel through customs to their next gate because they have flights that are leaving. Well, since we are technically not booked on a flight, we do not have that. And so we have to check in with the United gate, so that they can give us the Delta information. And
This
then
is all within we had 20 minutes till they closed the plane.
Right. So we have to go through customs, and we have to get to Delta. So we check in Delta. She says it is 1 minute until I cannot check you in for this flight at all. 1 minute. So whatever that time is, I think that's maybe 20 minutes before the plane leaves, 25 minutes before the plane leaves or something like that. I think so. And we are just checking in at the front desk. And so we just take our bags. I mean, they were kind of big for carry-ons, but, I mean, they were doable. And we just run through. We literally just skip straight to the front of the line. And I say, I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And I open up the gate thing and just, close it behind me. And I'm like, sorry. And then just go straight into security. And then we are running as fast as we basically can to the plane after we get through security. And we actually get clapped in by the standby passengers because they were getting checked in for our plane, for our spots, as we were there. And so they end up letting us on the plane, and we got on the plane. Because if we had missed that plane, it would have been another probably at least 16 hours until we got home. And this was we already got home, start to finish, 49 hours. The motto for the Egyptian people, I believe, is always be scamming. And I say that because, normally you go to, countries that are, a little, low, not as prosperous as the United States, and they are, they're overcharging on goods and stuff, and that's all fine. That's fair game, whatever. If you're not willing to haggle, then that's you. Well, in Egypt, I just feel like it's different. It's more malicious, I would say. Like in Egypt, they'll like be really nice and try to help you, and then they'll like basically entrap you in a situation and then force you to give them a tip. Do you want to talk about the
Police guy?
police guy? Yeah.
Yeah, so we were at one of the ruin sites, and this police officer was like, "Oh, hi, where are you guys from?" He was super friendly, making conversation.
Keep in mind, this guy has a machine gun,
Yes. he
like
did.
on his chest this entire time. So
And he was smiling. I feel like we didn't see a lot of smiling people, so... And then he was like, "Oh, there's this really cool thing. Let me show you." So he shows us this thing, and is like, "Oh, you gotta take a picture in front of this." We're like, "No, that's okay." And then he wants to take a picture with us. And so we're like, "Oh, okay." So Grant took a picture with him, and then I took a picture with him, and then he took a picture of the two of us. And like kept trying to be like, "No, that's okay. Like we don't need the picture. No." And he was just like so persistent. They were like, "Okay, whatever." And then at the end, he went like this.
yeah, they always do this.
Yeah.
This tip motion, and I'm just like,
And then there was another guy at that same place.
we walk 20 feet. I'm not
Yeah.
even kidding. 20 feet, and another guy a guy who works there.
And our tour guide had introduced him to us earlier and been like, "Oh, this is a great guy. This is my friend." Like, and we're like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he came up to us like a few feet later and was like, "Oh, let me show you this thing." And we were like, "No, that's okay." And he was like, "Come on, no." Like, and so he just pulls open the gate.
He like moves this chain, and we stand 1 foot on the other side of it. Didn't change the picture at all.
Yeah.
But he like wants us to give him a tip because he's done us a favor.
Well, he moved the gate. Like the chain. It was the chain.
Yeah, a chain. Like, it was nothing. And on the same note, though, they also make every tour guide or anytime we ask for a picture from anybody, they wanted us to do all of these tourist photos.
Yes.
Okay, would you like to demonstrate?
Well, there was the typical pyramid pic.
Yeah.
Where you
Now,
touch
you
the
might
pyramid.
think, oh, they're going to put the point of the pyramid underneath your hand. Not true. Take a look at this photo. You'll see that we are doing the motion, and the guy did not think we should put the point of the pyramid underneath the hand. And he forced us to do that motion.
Yeah.
They had us do, like, some weird, like, statue poses. We did, like,
The mummy pose.
oh yeah, the mummy pose. There's a whole slew. We're gonna make a whole album of forced tours, and they like were very persistent. We were like, oh, we're good. No, that was not
Yeah.
acceptable.
Now the tour guides, they didn't charge us for the photos.
No, they
just
didn't.
Made them.
But they
yes.
did force us to do the tours.
Yeah.
Yes. So then we start going through security, and we've already checked our bags in. And I kept my drone with me in my bag because it has the batteries, so you're not supposed to do the check luggage, right? Well, that was a mistake, I guess, because they did not like that I had a drone at all. They were up in arms about this. And they're like, nobody speaks English, by the way. It's all Arabic, and it's Egyptian Arabic, which is a little bit different than like standard Arabic, like the way that I have learned Arabic. But, I feel like I have a pretty good idea what they're talking about, and I wasn't sure, but then once they finally got English speaker over, turns out I did know what they were talking about. They were just confused. And they were basically asking, like, did I, had the front desk person, like, why didn't you check this? And I was like, because of these batteries. And then they were just like, oh, like, this could be a bomb. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this, like, can't you test it to see if it's a bomb? Isn't that sort of the point? And yeah, and so they're just furious. They're like, you could use this as a bomb. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so anyway, this goes on for like 45 minutes at least.
Mm-hmm. It was a while.
And they finally want me to check it. And I'm like, okay, can I get my check bag back? They're like, no. And so I'm like, okay, all we have are these little like flimsy, soft-sided carry-on backpacks. Like nothing that like, I mean, this is a very sensitive piece of equipment. So
Yeah, it's one of those stuffed backpacks.
yeah, like
Or like this tiny.
exactly, yeah. And so we end up just, well, so I take the memory card out because I'm like, all right, if this drone gets broken or I lose a drone, like whatever, but I really want the video and footage and stuff. And now it's a micro SD, so this thing is like a normal SD card. It's like half, if not a third, the size of that. And so I put that in my zipper pocket, most secure place I have. And so I thought, and you know, we wrap it in a coat and her scarf, and then I think another coat, and then we put it in this bag, and you know, hope for the best. And they take me back through security to check it in, and then when we get there, the front desk lady is all upset because she doesn't want me to check this thing. And I'm just like, so I have to unroll all of it, take the battery off of the drone, and then roll it all back in, and then put it in, and then check this thing. So then we're like, all right, fine. So we go to the gate. I'm sitting at the gate, and I try to pull out this micro SD card. I'm like, okay, let me check to make sure it's still there. It's not there. So I'm like freaking out. It must have fallen when I got my ID out to go back through security again. So I literally full sprint, because the plane is boarding currently, and I full sprint go back to security. And I'm like looking around and like, have you seen the SD card? I mean, it's tiny. I mean, even if it did fall out, I was like, there's no way I would have found it. Well, on my way back, and I had opened my wallet and stuff beforehand to see if it was in there. But I hadn't gone like that thorough. Well, so I finally go back and Katie's like, you know, did you check your wallet? And so I checked it again and I started pulling out the credit cards. It had slipped into one of the credit card slots behind one of the credit cards. Like, incredibly difficult to have occurred. But ended up finding it, made it to Egypt. It was all good.